All right. Says we are live, so we must be live. All right, guys. Do a little bit of a book club. So the reason why I wanted to share this book in particular, so it's by somebody who we all might know. So this is Cody Lundeen. He's one of the original dual survivors from that show, Dual Survival. Him and David Canterbury. Dave Canterbury has his own YouTube channel that's very good. I highly recommend it. But the reason why I wanted to do some reading from this book is because he approaches things a little bit different. So most of the time, these survival books, it's like a handbook. Like, here's how to make a trap. Here's how to start a fire with a magnifying glass. Here's how to purify water, and they have diagrams and things like that. So this is a little bit different. It's more of like the psychological aspect of survival. And that's something that's not very touched on. So we'll just start from chapter 1. There is some forewords and other things like that. But, if you want to read that, you'll have to buy the book. So the first chapter is titled Survival Situations. How do they start? So we'll just start. I hope everybody's having a good Monday. Monday, back to work, so just my lunch break. You know how we do. All right, let's start. Chapter 1, Survival Situations, how do they start? If anybody pops in the chat and you have a question and you want to comment or discuss anything that I read, just go ahead and chime in there. Sorry, getting some sun coming through here pretty good. Let's adjust this a little. All right. How do they start? How do survival situations happen? How do they start? These are loaded questions. A more accurate one would be, how don't they start? Murphy's Law, remember? Murphy's Law, remember? That which can go wrong will. Flat tires, freak weather, wrong turns, broken limbs, and a million more scenarios exist for screwing up in the woods. More often than not, life-threatening affairs are the end result of several seemingly insignificant events. Taken one at a time, they would have little effect, but when compounded, they can kill. Therefore, a main part of any survival strategy is to recognize danger signs early so corrective action can be taken. One of the more common ways to meet your maker is couched innocently enough in the simple day hike. Can you guess why? Have you ever heard somebody say, "Ain't nothing gonna happen, honey. We'll only be gone for a few hours. It's just a day hike." That's usually how it goes, huh? Excuse me. You're just out there, a trail you might know, and, you might get turned around, and that's it. Day hikes are notorious for compromising lives because they lull people into a sense of complacency in regard to properly preparing for a trip. Phrases like, "We don't need that extra sweater," or "Leave that water in the trunk," can end up putting people 6 feet under. Many people have died less than a mile from their vehicles without even being in the wilderness. A few years ago in the Arizona desert, an elderly couple made a wrong turn in their car and found themselves traveling a dirt road on the outskirts of Phoenix. After getting stuck in a sand wash, the woman abandoned ship to walk towards a major interstate that was clearly in view. A few days later, searchers found her body less than a mile from the highway, dead from dehydration and hyperthermia. Her frail husband, who stayed in the car, died as well. A rearview mirror dislodged from the vehicle and aimed at highway traffic might have brought help their way. What a terrible waste. Proper preparation can save your life. Ask anyone who's died of exposure and they'll tell you. So they mentioned something here, or I mean Cody, that, I've never really heard this term hyperthermia until I got into the survival stuff. Now, hyperthermia is the opposite of hypothermia. So instead of your body getting too cold, it gets too hot. So it's like heat stroke, but on steroids, like killing heat stroke. So now, one of the things that I like about Cody's book here is he makes it real interesting and he keeps your attention. So he's got these little cartoons and stuff off to the side. So I'm going to read this page on the left here, and we'll just go for it. Killing you softly, enemies to your survival. While it's impossible to complete the list due to the infinite variables present within human nature and Mother Nature, many outdoor travelers commonly face the enemies below. While there are no guarantees in a survival situation, proper planning coupled with quality survival training and subsequent practices will prevent any of these from occurring in the first place. Anxiety and fear, these two, when mixed with the power of imagination, are voracious killers. Yeah, anxiety and fear. Let your imagination take over. Pain and injury, illness, cold and heat, thirst and hunger, wetness, fatigue and sleep deprivation, boredom, loneliness and isolation, complacency and the desire for comfort, stubbornness, or the just general refusal to recognize and stop actions jeopardizing survival. Promises or unrealistic guarantees made to yourself or others, leading to stupid behavior. And get homeitis, setting and trying to maintain unrealistic timelines. The last three enemies are often subtly work their infectious death magic together, slowly but surely eroding away your good judgment. So let's read those three again. Stubbornness, promises, and get homeitis. So, you might be stubborn and, you may not admit that you're in the situation that you are. Or, you might not want to listen to, or, listen to another person's idea if you are in a survival situation with another person. Promises, telling everybody like it's going to be okay, we're almost out of here, or, things like that. And then get homeitis, like, oh, we got to get to that, if we could get to that river in 4 hours, we'll be all right. And, you keep going, 4 hours, get homeitis, All right. Let's see. Do we have time for another chapter? Yeah, this next chapter is pretty short. So we'll do a chapter 2. So this chapter is called Survival versus Primitive Living, or Living Off the Land. So this is, I'll just let Cody speak. So chapter 2, Survival versus Primitive Living. If you fail to get you and your loved ones out of a modern survival scenario, you will all die. It's not like the bar is closing at 1 a.m. and you're down to your last six-pack or getting a flat tire 3 blocks from home. It's a serious, life-threatening situation with little regard for the environment or anything else. You may resort to felling live trees, burning obnoxious petroleum products, or undaintedly harvesting materials necessary to keep you and those you love alive. You will be subjected to tremendous mental, emotional, and physical stress. You will need to strictly abide by the laws of how the body loses and gains heat through conduction, convection, radiation, evaporation, and respiration. So Cody will go through those many times in the book. That's just, he'll go through like how you would lose your heat through this situation, such as the conduction, the convection, the radiation, and how exactly what those all mean. Often, unless blessed by a favorable event during your survival ordeal, you won't be given a second chance if you blow it. There are very few rules, but your main goal are to regulate core body temperature and get rescued from your predicament as soon as possible. The modern survival scenario. Survival situations come in as many shapes and sizes as there are zits on a teenager and can last from various periods of time. You can be dead in a couple of minutes, hours, days, weeks, or months. However, the average survival scenario lasts for 72 hours, or 3 days. Statistically speaking, this is the amount of time that passes before searchers find you dead or alive. As long as you have someone searching for you. The whole focus of this book is betting on the fact that you'll be rescued within a 3-day time period, largely because you bothered to tell someone where you were going. This obviously does not mean that you should give up if your predicament lasts longer, but instead means you'll have to try even harder. Never give up trying to survive. If you become compromised in the woods today, the chances are high that you'll fall into a modern survival category. Primitive living. A primitive living situation is a long-term commitment. There is no getting rescued because you're already home. If you find yourself in this situation, chances are your uncle is wearing a buckskin loincloth chewing on a piece of dried pack rat meat. Excuse me, let me get something to drink real fast. All right. Differences. There is much confusion regarding the difference between a modern survival scenario and primitive living skills. They are two completely different scenarios whose main objectives overlap. The main objective of each is to stay alive on a short term, statistically, and one long term. One short term and one long term. For the average outdoor recreationalist, primitive skills should be a backseat to learning modern survival skills if learning to survive is the main intention. In other words, discover the magic of making fire by friction after you perfect using matches. So he's got a point there. It doesn't make sense. Don't rely on a ferro rod if you got a Bic lighter. You know what I mean? In any event, all modern survival skills originated from primitive skills, and the beauty of knowing both is empowering. If I lose my knife, I can make one from a stone. If my magnesium and matches go down the river, I have the potential to create fire with sticks. To effectively teach modern survival skills, one should be well versed in primitive skills as well. Nothing imparts the mindset of being able to do more with less and the possibilities of improvisation, improvising. Sorry, I guess I can't read too good. Let me try that one again. Nothing imparts the mindset of being able to do more with less and the possibilities of improvisation like living primitively. Like everything else, suddenly, however, times change, and with that change comes an array of modern goodies that can provide valuable to your survival. Sorry. Like everything else, however, times change, and with that change comes an array of modern goodies that can prove valuable to your survival. I attended a gathering several years ago and watched a friend and hey, what's up, little Klondike? Just doing a little reading, proving I can read. Thanks for joining. We got 98 degrees, how to keep your ass alive. So we go. I attended a gathering several years ago and watched a friend and renowned primitive skills instructor use nearly an entire book of matches to light a fire. The same person can make a fire with sticks in less than 20 seconds. Learning survival skills is much the same as learning martial arts. Would you rather face an assailant with half a dozen throwing stars or an Uzi? Modern day samurai warriors would certainly carry a full arsenal of automatic weaponry and other technological gizmos. There's an old saying, don't carry a knife to a gunfight, especially if you have the choice in the matter. With the samurai, only the look of the tool has evolved over time. But the intention behind the tool, the warrior mindset, physical training, common sense has essentially remained the same. We're almost done. One of the main illusions confusing a primitive situation and a modern one is the importance of food. Remember, the average modern survival scenario lasts 3 days or less. I know people who have fasted for 40 days and none of them were named Jesus. In fact, a normal, well-nourished adult has sufficient fat stores to live for 60 to 70 days, I bet, in a controlled climate setting. Soldiers in the field, when subjected to serious food restrictions, have routinely maintained a relative normal workload for up to 9 days. During World War II, the well-known Minnesota starvation study found that A loss of less than 10% body weight did not impair physical performance. It was only when the subject continued the starvation pattern for longer periods of time and lost more body weight than physical performance began to nosedive. That physical performance began to nosedive. Teaching a basic survival class how to catch food with a variety of traps and snares is not only unrealistic and impractical. Imagine your urban 60-year-old aunt setting up scores of deadfall. It ignores the more important issue of regulating body temperature. Besides, unless you trap for a living, your chances of harvesting more calories than you'll use dinking around is inevitable. In extreme cold weather, food would be nice since digestion generates metabolic heat, but it doesn't replace the hat and parka. Most of us have ample calories stored around our waist to get us through most compromising modern situations. All right, so I'll end there with chapter 2. We'll do chapter 3 and 4 maybe another time. So Cody had said some interesting things here. He said like the most common or average survival situation lasts about 3 days, and that's kind of like the general rule of thumb. So usually when you make a kit at home, you usually see like the bug out bag is usually called like a 72-hour kit. Quit job. Do you live in car? No, I don't live in here. I just got some like old clothes that I need to take to the Salvation Army, and I just haven't gotten around to it. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. But usually the bug out bag is called like the 72-hour bag or whatever, and he also said talked about food. Food is usually an important one. And he mentioned that humans, or he knows people that can go, up to 40 days or even more without eating. And, in America, most of us have that extra food storage around our waist, like he said. But generally, the rule is, we follow the rule of threes. You have 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, and 30 days without food. That's generally like the survival rule of thumb. Someone like Cody, I know he said he could go more than 3 days without water, but he's like adapted to that situation being in the desert and all. He also said some things here about like crossover from the differences of modern survival to primitive living, and he touched on some pretty important things. Like, for instance, his instructor couldn't start a fire with matches, but he could do it all day with rubbing a stick on another stick. So I kind of, when I first started getting into the survival stuff, and preparedness, I pretty much just watched YouTube channels and just, I didn't realize everybody was trying to sell you something. So I thought you had to have this fire kit, you had to have this fire starter, you had to have this water kit, you had to, do this, have this rather. Now that I'm a lot older and a lot more skilled, I realize that one of the most important survival tools you'll actually need is survival skill. You can have fancy fire strikers all day. You can have your lighters all day, but like he said, what if they go down, the river? Are you going to know how to do that friction fire? But then the same is true for the opposite. So what if you don't have 2 sticks to rub together and all you have is a book of matches, and you're not very good with the book of matches because you never practice striking matches, because you just figure they're matches, how hard can it be? And you waste your whole book of matches trying to get a fire going, and your sticks are wet. So we got some interesting things to take away from there. One more interesting thing that I want to point out that he went over is this part here: killing you softly, the enemies to your survival situation. So these are like the last three are like real psychological things that he had mentioned. Promises, get homeitis, and stubbornness. So, you know, these stubborn can kill you. And especially get homeitis. You need to stop, evaluate, take your time, and assess the situation, I guess is what he's kind of saying here. Anyway, guys, that's where I'll kind of leave it there today. It was kind of a boring live stream, so I apologize. But I really wanted to share this book with you because Cody Lundin, he was one of the dual survivors, and I know that they get a lot of shit, but he was one of the original ones, and this guy is legit. So you guys should look him up. He teaches real classes in Arizona, and he is, you know, he lives out there in the woods. And this book is really good. This is his first one. And like I said, he has like a lot of those like cartoons and stuff like that. He keeps everything real interesting. Like this one here, you know, how your body gains heat, how your body loses heat. So we were talking about, you know, the convection, conduction, and things like that. So here's, you know, where he goes into more detail about that. And he makes it real interesting. And then over here, you know, we just got some pictures. So here's his, whoops, getting blowed up. Here's his example of like his survival kit. So he's got some matches, he's got a Mora, he's got some Snickers, he's got some paracord, you know, first aid kit. I see some emergency blankets, a mirror, and like all of that. That's just like the basic survival kit stuff. If you guys are just like starting out and you know, you don't quite sure know where to go if you're trying just to get like a little kit going, you should look up Dave Canterbury's 10 C's of Survivability. He goes through some basic stuff with that. He gives great examples. What they boil down to, it's like, you know, a cutting tool, combustion device, covering, you know, cordage, things like that. Everything like kind of has a C theme, so it's easy to remember. I just named 5 of them. So he has the 5 C's and the 10 C's. The 5 that I just named are the only ones I can remember off the top of my head. So you guys should check that out. Another thing, the internet is a great source of information, but nothing beats having a book. You can mark the pages, you can highlight things, you know, you can dog your pages and just keep things for like, you know, your quick reference. So I just wanted to share this one with you guys. This is a great book. And I just also wanted to prove that I could read. Anyway, guys, maybe I'll find some more interesting chapters instead of just starting out cold straight from chapter 1 like I did this time. It's been a couple years since I read this book cover to cover. And I forgot it's not all, you know, it's not all exciting. So maybe it's not the best to live stream me just reading a book to everybody, but you never know. Anyway, y'all, I think that's all I got for you. Thanks for hanging out. Go ahead and hit that thumbs button and make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. And if you watch on Rumble, hit that Rumble button. And remember, y'all, stay well regulated. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.